We're walking through the trenches now, from which the soldiers of the 8th and 10th Light Horse Regiments charged the morning of 7th of August into the Turkish lines ahead of us, behind what is now shrub area, and the next cemetery is just behind there. We're standing in spots where soldiers would have immediately jumped out of trenches, and many of them were shot down immediately. These trenches are a very solemn place, but also an exposed place. Here, where the next cemetery is, was the ground they charged over, and the Turkish trenches were over there behind those pine trees where there's a memorial. And this ground here, no larger than maybe a couple of tennis courts, ended up being the grave of some 400 out of 600 light horsemen, who all died within perhaps 30 minutes of the first wave going over at 4:37 in the morning. From this point here to that point over there, maybe 60 or 70 metres at most. 4 waves of 150 soldiers each, upon the blowing of a whistle, straight over the top and into murderous gunfire coming down from those trenches above, and even behind there, the hill of Baby 700, considered a fortress. And probably one of the most futile offences in the Gallipoli campaign, in a campaign that was not short of futility and waste. Of course, it's very hard to imagine this position being such a strongly or easy to defend position from the Turkish perspective, but where these trees are in front of me would have been the Turkish trenches at the neck, and the cemetery, well, it was open ground then, and so that open ground was the ground over which those Australian light horsemen charged on August 7th. And if we can kind of ignore, I guess, the trenches, the graveyard, the hedge behind the graveyard, and consider this open ground, to picture those Australian soldiers in 4 waves just coming out of the open ground, cross it in such an exposed position. Again, the futility of it is most striking of all. And the fact that by even the second, by the third, and most definitely by the 4th wave, there were still orders to push on, to make those men come out of the trenches, to continue trying to assault an impregnable position. And despite what Peter Weir would portray in the film Gallipoli in 1983, it was an Australian officer who decided to keep making that order for the soldiers to push on wave after wave for no gain.